Space Marine 2 is a wake-up call to developers everywhere. It's 2024, and players were told they had to choose between this and this.
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that? What is that?
The only thing that surprised me about this outcome was that someone somewhere was surprised by this outcome. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is a return to the basics of gaming, back to when games thought of themselves as games, meant for fun, as opposed to taking themselves way too seriously. Back to when they tried to deliver characters that were bigger than life. But it's more than just that. It's also a return to a game being okay with making a ton of money because it's good, instead of needing to make all of the money because it's greedy. It's also an unabashedly testosterone-filled game, in an age where developers have become afraid of saying the word testosterone in a positive sentence. It's a game that proudly says, yes, this one is for the boys and the girls who like big-ass guns and intergalactic wars. It's got blood and gore and stoic, almost emotionless heroes. It's just plain fun, and it takes me back to when I was young, playing games that were made by a bunch of nerds who were just trying to make something that they thought was badass, filled with moments they thought were badass. It didn't get lost along the way trying to make sure that it catered to every possible demographic. Will children like this? What about grandma? What about the quadriplegic nuns? No, instead it just focused on telling the most epic, true to form Warhammer 40k story that it could, for the people that are most likely to love an epic Warhammer 40k story. The end result is something so undeniably refreshing. I didn't know how bad I needed it or how bad I missed it until I was laughing out loud as I ran through soldiers whose bodies popped like water balloons, or when I ripped an enemy's arm off and impaled him with it, or when I was glued to the screen when Titus gave the most death metal pledge I've ever heard.
My craft is death.
What is your pledge?
My pledge is eternal service.
So many games are turning their backs on me as a consumer, so confident that I don't exist anymore, as if people who like action movies and the Deadpool franchise stopped existing in 2020. Except we are still here, buying games, enjoying games, and passionately loving games the way we always have. So why are developers turning their backs on us? Why are they so convinced there is this new so-called modern audience where we stop existing? This so-called modern audience that never seems to show up whenever they build something for them. Is it possible the modern audience isn't a real thing, that gamers haven't magically done a 180 when it comes to their taste in video games? The action in Space Marine 2 is as over the top as it gets, and in doing so delivers all of the power fantasy you could want. And it does all of this in the unfathomably deep Warhammer 40k universe. A universe that admits that it is an incredibly far from perfect world. You mindlessly serve a literal god emperor as you fight to kill pretty much anything that isn't human. But to be fair, everything that isn't human is trying to kill you as well. And sometimes even the humans are trying to kill you. Heretics, all of them. In this game, you are not perfect. Your leader is not perfect. Far from it. This is a brutal future where humanity is faced with an intergalactic war on a scope we can't even imagine, with more losses in a single day than we've known in our entire existence. And in this game, we are the 9-foot-tall Space Marines who find ourselves on the very front lines of this devastating intergalactic conflict. It doesn't shy away from the violence of war or from the manliness that inherently exists in this war-torn world, and it doesn't guilt-trip you for enjoying it. There is no lecturing, there are no real-world politics popping in to break your immersion, just Warhammer 40k politics, a brutal and fictional sci-fi universe where the strong survive and the weak are cold by an indiscriminate enemy. It takes me back to the old StarCraft cinematics like this one. When I saw that cinematic, I wanted nothing more than a game about that character, a Warhammer 40k Space Marine. And for good reason. Apparently, at one point, Blizzard was in talks with Games Workshop to make a Warhammer 40k game. That deal fell apart, and they modified those assets and used them to make Warcraft and StarCraft. So yeah, to say StarCraft was inspired by Warhammer 40k is an understatement. It's criminal that they've never allowed that franchise to escape the RTS genre. It is capable of so much more, and Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 proves it. But I digress. Space Marine 2 takes the finishers from Doom and God of War and combines them with a fantastically epic story told in the brutal 40k universe, and it does it better than any Warhammer game that I've played before. It does it in a way that makes me want more 40K stories, in games like Space Marine 2, and in TV shows like the one Henry Cavill is working on. In fact, I would say that Space Marine 2 is the best thing that could have happened to Games Workshop and Henry Cavill's upcoming Warhammer epic. After selling millions of copies, Space Marine 2 is proof that there is a strong appetite for this type of story, for fearless, stoic anti-heroes carving their way through hell and back trying to protect humanity. And just like that, the Warhammer 40K universe now has millions of brand new fans chomping at the bit for a good Warhammer 40K story. And I hope that Henry Cavill's writers take one lesson from the success of Space Marine 2 and from the failures of the Halo adaptation. It's okay to stick to Warhammer 40K lore in 2024. It's okay if it's not just like every other modern day TV show. It's okay to make it badass. It's okay for it to have sharp edges, and it's okay to crank the testosterone to 11. But it isn't just the visceral nature of the game and the testosterone levels that are carrying it to such great heights. This game was made for gamers by gamers, and you can tell it wasn't made by a bunch of people in suits. And that is exactly why the suits involved made a ton of money. For example, there's one thing Space Marine 2 doesn't have that almost every game in 2024 has. Do you know what it is? A cash shop. When I booted up the game and I couldn't find a cash shop, I almost didn't believe it. Surely it's hiding in here somewhere, devouring would-be content, cannibalizing it for the sake of a quick extra buck. Surely. But no. Instead, the strangest thing happens. You buy the game, you boot it up, and then you do the most early 2000s thing ever. You play the game to unlock the cosmetics. And if you took this one feature away, if you took unlocking cosmetics out of the multiplayer experience, it would be a shell of itself. This game would not have been received nearly as well. The repetitiveness of the co-op missions is made infinitely more fun because it's so satisfying watching your Space Marine progress in both power and style. And God, do I miss the days when this was the norm. Meanwhile, other studios are letting their money teams lobotomize their games. They take the cosmetics out, but they don't stop there. They even let them carve out quests from the base game to sell as a day one DLC. And how is that working out for them? And instead of changing their ways when another game comes out from a small studio and blows the competition out of the water, these developers throw tantrums.
You can't keep getting away with it!
They do anything but accept that they made a mistake, that their monetization overreached, or that they turned their backs on the very gamers that worshipped them to instead cater to a quote-unquote modern audience that doesn't exist. When I boot up a game, I want to escape reality by being something bigger, something better, smarter, or just all around more epic than I am. I don't boot it up to play as Walmart NPC number 356. Why do I need to explain that to a developer? Now, speaking of putting on a few extra pounds, we all know how easy it is to put on some weight. You eat more calories than your body needs, and your weight goes up. Pretty simple. But so is the solution, and thanks to the sponsor of today's video, that's never been easier. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success. Skip the grocery stores, the prep work, and the cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. It's cheaper than fast food, it's healthier than fast food, and it's easier than fast food. What more could you ask for? With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more, it's never been easier to stick to healthy portion sizes. Get chef-prepared meals on the table in just 2 minutes with Factor's ready-to-eat meals. You can use Factor to lose weight or to keep the weight off. In fact, that's exactly what I did. About a year ago, my doctor told me I was officially overweight. I was blindsided. I knew I put on a couple extra pounds, but being classified as overweight? That was a wake-up call. Fortunately, Factor's pre-portioned meals made it easy to avoid overeating. And when you're not overeating, the weight sheds itself. If you want to take control of your weight with less time, less effort, and less money than it takes to pick up expensive fast food, head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code LUCKYGHOST50 to get a massive 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code LUCKYGHOST50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the video while you order your first box of healthy and delicious meals delivered to your doorstep. The lack of a cash shop preserves so many essential components. You can't open up the shop to buy currency and skip progression, which means progression is properly paced. It was so refreshing and instantly provided that extra layer of satisfaction. Grinding out weapon upgrades took a reasonable amount of time because there weren't XP boosts for sale in the cash shop. And this isn't the first time this year that a developer was able to say, look, we're making a game. It's just a game. Don't take it too seriously. It's meant for fun. Don't try to attach real world politics to it. You're a moron if you do. And people loved them for it. But every time developers make this type of game, these weirdos come out to create problems that don't exist, to represent an audience that doesn't exist. I grew up watching Terminator, The Matrix, Battlestar Galactica, and playing Zelda, Halo, Diablo, Doom, Myst, God of War, and Secret of Mana. For some reason, many modern developers don't want to believe that I still exist, that 2020 hit and I disappeared. They want to believe I no longer want visceral, realistic, dark, sci-fi stories. So many games are being served at room temperature these days, safe, sanitized, and afraid of offending anyone because they are so afraid of what the Twitter echo chambers might say. Look at the biggest shows of the last decade, Game of Thrones. Do you think George R.R. Martin was wondering what Twitter would think when he wrote Ice and Fire? It doesn't get less safe and less sanitized than that. Where is this idea in game development coming from that everyone is so fragile that we can no longer handle complex stories with complex characters? If movies were made the way these safe games were being made lately, we wouldn't have the greats like Saving Private Ryan, 300, The Terminator, or Deadpool and Wolverine. Some studios have fallen so out of touch that they have painted themselves into these weird and impossible corners. They remind me of when I'm watching speedrunners play a video game with self-imposed challenges, where they force themselves to beat the game using only one item. Developers are doing this now while making games. They start out by saying, okay, we're gonna make the most epic game ever. Except it can't have this, that, or the next thing because Twitter might get upset. And it has to include this, that, or the next thing, or else Twitter will get upset. And I'm not talking about the reasonable things that people expect to be in these games. Studios have reached a point where they're afraid of putting attractive people in video games. What in God's name is going on? They took this girl and did this to her. Why? Because it might offend unattractive people? Hey, unattractive people, does this face offend you? Is it making you sad? Developers, how pathetic do you think your audience is? Really, do you think I'm gonna boot up your game and then when a hot protagonist appears on screen, I'm going to go, well, this fictional character's hotter than me. I always knew I should have just killed myself. Jesus. No one is doing that. No one feels that way. You don't have to uglify characters to protect us. And the fact that you think you do says so much more about you than it does about us. Devs are trying to protect the people that felt bad because James Bond was a sexy beast when they were playing GoldenEye on the N64. And just to be clear, that person didn't exist then and they don't exist now. If anything, it's the opposite. We are escaping reality to experience life as someone that can cast more magic than we can, that knows more martial arts than we do, or that is hotter and buffer than we are. If you think we get sad when a character's hotter than us, why stop there? Why not make sure that it can't fight as well as us? And heck, God only knows what would happen if we found out the character was smarter than us, so you better make him an idiot as well. Wait a second, did you just tell me that my character was gonna be taller than me?
Oh no, no, no.
Developers, I have a simple solution for this problem, so pay attention, because we are okay with Barrett being a sexy beast. If an issue like this has never bothered you personally, there is an incredibly high likelihood it's a made-up Twitter problem, made up by people whose entire relevance depends on them having these problems to complain about. And if the only people that are complaining about these problems are the people who need them to exist to justify their existence on Twitter, you can ignore them. And if you're not sure, ask your customer. We would be happy to save you from your next $100 million mistake. We want you to succeed. We selfishly want you to make a good game because we want to play good games. Never forget that. We are on your side. Let us help you. If you're ever not sure if something is a real issue or if it's a Twitter echo chamber issue, just put up a poll and let us vote. People fabricate straw men. They say, I don't feel this way, but some people do. And everyone keeps saying that. Meanwhile, no one is actually saying, I feel this way. That's your first clue that you're dealing with a fake problem. And of course, there are exceptions, but I also know the difference between reasonable feelings and unreasonable ones. Let's not forget, someone was upset by the fact that there weren't enough women in the first 2 hours of a game about a monkey.
What the hell is even that?
Some people are stupid on both sides of this argument. We have to be able to collectively acknowledge that and to collectively ignore them. This person is a moron, and no one should ever listen to anything that they have to say. But the morons aren't only limited to one side of this argument. There's also people that flip out every time they see a female or minority protagonist. There's morons on both sides. Can we all agree on that? Good, we're getting somewhere. The saddest part about Concord is that the artists are clearly crazy talented. The art quality is stunning, but the art direction, my God, this imaginary audience that is offended by the Space Marine 2s of the world isn't real. These people don't play games. They tweet about games, they write about games, and they dog whistle to other people that tweet about games and write about games. They farm impressions the only way they know how. They fabricate controversy because without controversy, they are irrelevant. Oh, you didn't put something controversial in your game? Nice try. I'm gonna make controversy out of something you didn't put in the game instead then. Unbelievable. These are the people that pretend to be offended by the fact that women don't show up in the first 2 hours of a game about a monkey. These are the people that complain the protagonist is more attractive than them. These people are nothing more than rage baiters, clickbaiters, and haters. They are not customers, they are not consumers, and they do not speak for consumers. And developers are learning this the hard way. When they make a room temperature, safe video game with no sharp edges, and that game receives equally room temperature public reception. Frankly, it's tiring. It's tiring for me, it's tiring for the developers, and it's sad to watch your favorite developers let themselves be bullied by these people. To watch a bunch of incredibly talented people spend the better part of a decade creating a game that no one wants because someone at their company was smart enough to get the job, but not smart enough to see the difference between a real problem and an echo chamber. Fortunately, that's all changing now. The developers are realizing what players already know. Players don't care about things that the developers don't care about. We are just like them. We are not some alien species that needs to be coddled and protected. Stop doing things in your games for us if it isn't something that you yourself need. We are predictable, reasonable humans. Developers are realizing how much of a poison pill these Twitter echo chambers can be for their studios. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Just because someone is loud doesn't mean they are right. And that is exactly why games like Helldivers, Space Marine 2, and Black Myth Wukong have done so exceptionally well this year. They didn't tie themselves into knots. They focused on creating a good game that stayed true to the world it takes place in, for a real audience that actually exists. The one that has had their back for the last 20 years, and the one that will have their back for the next 20 years. This year has been a wake-up call for developers. It's time for them to take back control of their games, to stop letting themselves be manipulated and bullied by terminally online Twitter users who are demanding they create games for an audience that literally doesn't exist. You can still make an epic, visceral, action-filled game in 2024. You can still have attractive characters. I promise we can handle that. Gamers still like epic shit. It's not like 2020 hit and all of a sudden every gamer stopped watching Deadpool and started watching The Notebook. We're still here and we can't wait to play and love your next game. This year has been your wake-up call. If you made it this far into the video, I'm sure you have some thoughts, so please leave them down in the comments below. If you agree with what I'm saying in the video, like it. If you don't, dislike it. All the same, thanks for listening, and I hope you interpreted what I said in good faith. There is no hate in this video. No hate towards genders, no hate towards races, no hate towards anybody. Just simply love for a good game with a good story. Regardless of who the protagonist is, I just want a good game. So thank you so much. And a massive shout out to my YouTube channel members for making this all possible. If you want to become a channel member, hit the join button down below to become a member for perks like behind the scenes footage and access to a private Discord channel and more. If you're not sure what to do next, definitely check out one of my videos popping up on screen right now, and I hope to see you in the next video.